Hello and welcome to From the BO End, the Burnley podcast. My name is Justin Connolly and I'm choosing from a very depleted squad this evening. Simon and Andrew, much too busy to bother with us tonight. So, but you know what they say, that just gives other people the opportunity to shine. I can almost guarantee that that's not going to happen. But we're going to try our best.
We're not Danny Ings and Sam Vokes, are we? Would it?
No. I was going to say beggars can't be choosers. Yeah.
So as you can tell, we've got Chris Bowden and Paul Woodhouse who join me for this, which is going to be the Middlesbrough preview of the game tonight. You should be listening to this at some point on Friday. And that's not a mistake. The game is on Friday night. Now, up to this point this season, I seem to be the one of us who has spent the most time moaning about things. So I'm going to get one in early tonight. I hate this Friday football stuff. Friday's not a night for football. I mean, people have got other things to do. I don't even want to watch football on TV on a Friday night. Like, Woody, what? I mean, it might be better for you. I don't know, the timing-wise and all that sort of stuff. But it does show a bit of a disregard for the fans, doesn't it?
Yes, I'd be more annoyed if I was over in the UK. I think to your point, it just throws your week off, doesn't it? Especially when you've been playing Sundays, and especially this season, everything seems to be off kilter. You expect championship games, weekend, sometime in midweek, but this idea of like shifting in between Sundays to Mondays to Fridays to whatever, you just can't get a regular cadence, can you? It just doesn't get in your bones the same. So yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't be a fan the same over there. Over here, 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon is a fantastic time to watch sports. It's infinitely better than 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Let's put it that way.
Let's do it every week.
Yeah, being extremely selfish. I don't give a shit. Yeah.
I mean, it's like bad for them getting back after the game, isn't it? Friday night, setting off back to Middlesbrough from Burnley, especially in the depths of winter. It's just horrible, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, Chris, am I being old-fashioned here? Because I suppose, like, obviously this has been done for the TV, and Sky is showing loads more games this season, which I suppose is good for the Championship and good for the clubs. But it does. It seems to me like they should be looking after the fans a little bit better, and I'm sure these things, if they put a little bit more thought into them, could be scheduled a little bit better. What do you think?
Well, I'm of the school of thought. I much remember, clubs like Tranmere and Stockport trying to sort of ward off, the Liverpools and Evertons, Cities, Uniteds, etc., and playing their games on Friday nights, and it becoming a bit of a fashion for a period. And I didn't mind a Friday night. I think I can certainly vividly remember 2 years ago in the Championship season, the West Brom game, and I don't know. I mean, that was quite. I sort of jumped on the train from Acton straight down to the bridge, few pints, watch a really enjoyable game of football, and a few more pints afterwards, and then you've got the rest of the weekend to yourself. There's pros and cons, isn't there? But football, to me, like we were saying on a couple of podcasts ago about, Monday night football's 30 odd years.
That's become a thing now, isn't it?
Into its thing now. So, and I think as soon as it hits sort of Friday tea time, you're in the football weekend, and it's just could be any time within that span, really.
The thing about Friday nights, though, I think, is it's a night for doing other things, isn't it? A lot of people are going out and doing all sorts of different things.
Nobody goes out anymore, do they?
Is that true? I try to get out every now and again, try to leave the house at least once a week, if I can. I mean, I've noticed a few of the games this season are at like weird times or just really bad times. Like both our Plymouth games are on a Tuesday night. I mean, that's just awful for people travelling back up and down the country, isn't it? I mean, and that's not necessarily for TV. That's just when they've scheduled those games.
That's often been the case. So if you remember, like when Chris Waddle were in charge, we played Plymouth on a Tuesday night away from home, and the umpteen occasions like that. It's just the way they could going to Bournemouth on a Wednesday night in the Premier League and things like that. It's just there is no consideration for fans, but it's the way it is nowadays, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just throw this last one in. Our return fixture against Middlesbrough is also an 8 o'clock kickoff, but that one's on a Sunday night.
Oh,
I mean, that's just mad, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
that is.
So I mean,
yeah, what's going on there? Yeah. So
it's all really just done for the sake of the TV and the fans who actually pay the money to go and see the game. Their sort of arrangements are disregarded once again. But that's modern football, isn't it? I suppose it's the fact that the TV demands that games are shown at different times so that more people can watch them. Interestingly, I did see a report the other day that suggested they might get rid of this blackout for Saturdays. I don't know what do you think about that, Chris? I think really, if you're prepared to pay for it, you should be able to watch any game at any time.
I think we've crossed the line now. I mean, I don't think it has any bearing on crowd sizes, etc. It's just, those who want to be inside the stadium will be inside the stadium, and those who are sort of, a bit more casual and are happy to watch it on TV, it's available to. The advent of Fire Sticks and streams and this, that, and the other. It's just, we're not. It's not entirely legal, is it? But it's people are going to do it nonetheless. So they might as well just make it available.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? People are doing it anyway. People are watching games anyway, but they're not getting any revenue out of it. So it's so easy these days to stream a game, isn't it? Do you get all the games over there, Woody?
Yes, of all sports, and whether it's local or whatever. So a Cleveland Browns game. You'll be able to see at the same time, which promotes obviously local bar attendance as well, because you'd be more entitled to pop into your local booze. You might be more inclined to pop into Burnley itself. You might not go on the ground, but you're going to get some kind of atmosphere and a little bit of a buzz about the place if things are going on, because perfectly damn well you're not going to be a walk-on. So it just makes sense all round, I think. Seems a silly, outdated rule these days.
Yeah, this change is apparently not going to happen for a few years. I mean, when they talk about when these new things are going to come in, it's always some date in the future that seems like something from science fiction to me, like 2027, and I think God, that's only 2 years away.
Yeah, and it seems like it shouldn't be a difficult thing to do somehow. Yeah.
No, I mean, I know in America they tend to package stuff up through the actual sporting organisations' apps and stuff, don't they? Like, if you want to watch baseball, you can get the MLB app and just pay a flat fee and watch any games you want.
Yeah,
I don't know if it works.
It works that way. Plus, you also get it on local channels. So if it's obviously Cleveland and it's the Browns, or it's Ohio State, those are the games that you're getting locally for free as well. Yeah, because they know perfectly well that a lot of people aren't able to attend games because of the distance, and it just seems to, I don't know, it just seems unfair to various other fans. Yeah, you get it that they've got to drive revenue, and I can see that they'd be slightly worried about some of that. But at the end of the day, you'd rather have people watching it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, the big worry is it affects teams lower down the divisions, isn't it? Like if you can watch every Man United game and it clashes with a game, that you could go to round the corner, what are you going to do? But like I say, I think people are doing it anyway, so they might as well try and make a bit of cash out of it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's move on to some actual football then, because Middlesbrough are the visitors to Turf Moor on a decent run of form. Chris, you will no doubt have put together your extensively researched scouting report. What can we expect, do you think?
Well, goals. I think, there's only Norwich scored.
There's a death knell. Yeah,
exactly. There's only Norwich scored more goals than Middlesbrough, but if you look at a lot of them have come recently. They did a sort of a sequence of games recently where they scored 4, 5, and 6 in ascending value in successive games until they mysteriously lost at home to a somewhat offside-looking winner from Blackburn Rovers. But they're up to 5th. They play, what's sort of deemed to be the right way under Michael Carrick, who himself was obviously a fabulous passer of a football. But they do. I think they've lost 6 of their 18 games, so it's a sizable chunk to be 5th. But by the same token, they've only won 1 fewer game than Burnley. So it seems to be either boom or bust with them. But I think a lot of people have been sort of really interested to have a look at the kid Ben Doak from Liverpool, who had a bit of time with the first team in pre-season, and Arne Slot sort of thought he'd benefit from a season out on loan in the Championship. Scottish international. He sounds like a real throwback, sort of right-sided, out-and-out dribbler, and I think he's only got the 1 goal, but he's 6 assists this season, 5 of which were in the last month. More assists than anyone in English football in November. So he's, whether let's say Scott Parker's tended to use Pires at home and Humphrey away, he may well look at Ben Doak and think he wants a bit of a more defensive left fullback on the case tomorrow night. But they've talent in other areas. Middlesbrough, very young side, and it could be a sticky evening tomorrow night.
What do you make tonight? What do you make of Carrick? I mean, he's kind of almost made it, hasn't he? There, but how long are they going to tolerate just almost making it, you reckon?
Well, let's say his mate Kieran McKenna has usurped him, hasn't he? He went to the Ipswich and got 2 promotions, and I saw his name being banded around with the West Ham job as a former Hammer. It looks like Graham Potter will probably get that job as and when Lopetegui gets sacked. But it's tough, isn't it? He had an outstanding season with Akpom was playing, and he ended up getting his move to Ajax, and things have sort of had to settle down again. But they're always sort of knocking on the door of the playoffs, and it's making that step. But you're up against, when you look at Leeds and Sheffield and Burnley, and obviously Ben Gibson was on about the parachute payments, wasn't he, after the defeat last week? And there's a bit of an argument about how does that really influence things at this? It's more down to the sort of quality in how much of your quality in your squad you can retain. Can you replace those you lose? But
you don't get parachute payments in the first season down, do you?
I lose track of what happens to it. I mean, obviously you don't. If you get promoted at the first attempt, you don't.
So we haven't actually had any.
I don't know when it comes into play nowadays, to be honest. But it's let's say they're not as much as they used to be either, are they? So it's I don't pay too much attention to the finance aspect, but it is what it is.
Probably just as well.
Come down from come down from the Premier League. You need. I'd say I am a believer in the parachute payments. The gulf between what you need to compete in the Premier League and then when you come down. Burnley are in the top 10 in terms of sales in Europe in the summer, and then you've got to do a rebuilding job, which Burnley had to do rather abruptly.
Mm.
each time. Yeah, it's not as black and white. That argument about parachute pens, I think.
So Chris touched on it a little bit there, Woody, but we've seen Parker sort of play a little bit of a different side in away games to the ones he plays at home. He's a bit more defensive, obviously, away from home, which sort of makes a lot of sense. But this is kind of a bit of a tougher test for us at home than we've had recently. So what do you reckon? Do you think he might sort of mix it up again?
I think this is an interesting one. They've scored, what have they? They scored 13 in the last 3 away from home. And so they're obviously genuinely firing away from home. So that would intimate that they're going to at least have a go. And as we've seen, not too many people come to the turf and have a go. So I think to Chris's point, Humphreys could very well play on the left. We may be looking at being a little bit more solid, trying to catch him on the break. But, really, there's not that. I don't think there's that much to change, really, as to what we've seen over the past week or so. I wouldn't play around with it too much. I think it just comes down to who's fit. As long as everybody's like firing and everybody's okay, I'd pretty much stick with a very similar side. But I think you're right. This is going to be a proper test, and I'm really quite looking forward to it. It'll be some effort to keep another clean sheet, I think.
Yeah, he sometimes brings Hannibal in for like in that number 10 role where Sarmiento played in the last game, and that seems to solidify things a bit more. But then you're sort of relying on Anthony and Koleosho, or to produce things, and I'm not sure that seems to have been where we were lacking a bit of potency in those games where we couldn't score, and that's changed a bit over the last couple of games. So I don't know. I think it might be a little bit of both, a little bit of solidifying it up at the back, but maintaining that threat that we've shown, over the last few games.
I'd stick with the 3 behind Jay as such. If he does play Humphrey, he's got a more defensively minded fullback. He's Roberts who can do both, 2 centre halves, and he's got the 2 in front. So I don't see why you need 3 sort of to solidify that midfield area. You can let the 3 behind Jay just let loose, really, run riot, hopefully, and whether you can also throw Fleming into the mix as well. Him and Jay can sort of rotate if necessary on occasion. They're both adept at coming towards the ball. Fleming's shown he can go in behind as well, so that might be one to look at.
We've definitely stick with Jay right up front, though.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think he's done really well. It's he looks a bit rusty at first, didn't he? But he's kind of grown into it as he's had a bit of a run in the side.
He'll only get better when he plays. If you think about it, the sort of criticism of Jay has been, he's been coming on in bits and pieces and starting the odd game. Well, judge him when he's had a run in the side, and I think we can all see. He's had sort of 2 or 3 starts now, and you're starting to see, what we, he's not the sprightly Jay Rodriguez of his youth, but he's a very, very clever footballer, and a very technical footballer, and I think there's a lot of teams at this level would be thrilled to pieces to have him in their arsenal.
Well, I think rather than sort of looking weary after playing quite a few games in a short space of time, he's actually looked a lot sharper. He has been sat down for quite a long time this season, so he's probably got something in the tank,
Yeah. That little bit of game time, that little bit of sharpness.
That's what they all need.
Nice. Yeah, because if there is some space to exploit Friday night, then why not have the blokes up front to find it?
So talking about game time, we're going to move on to talk a little bit about the injury situation, which it's been a weird one this season, hasn't it? We've sort of started with a depleted pack, and it sort of bumps along nicely, and then sort of players have started coming back. This week in the under-23s, who beat Birmingham 8-1. In the lineup was Ekdal, Joe Worrell and Delcroix, another mystery man this season.
Were they all playing
Chris, it's quite good to have those three names back in the frame, isn't it? Because we're a bit, in a side that sort of built the success of the side that is sort of built on the defensive qualities they've got. We have been a little bit thin in that department. I think it was Simon who said last week, we'd be knackered if Esteve goes out for a couple of months with an injury. But with those three back in the mix, it's sort of, we might have just got away with it. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I say it'd be nice to have it. Everyone's sort of, us included, have been sort of looking forward to the return of the Benson, the Scarlett Pimpernel, Trésor, Redmond, Ramsey. But to have, I say there's not many sides at this level that have that sort of quality in depth. I think we all thought Worrell would be a mainstay of the side when he signed, and sitting with Esteve there, Egan Riley's made himself indispensable at the moment. I say Ekdal, given a run in the side, I think will prove himself to be as good as anything at this level as well. And Delcroix, he did have his moments at centre half and did have his moments as a left fullback as well. So it's another option in two areas there. But I think we're all the ones we're banking on, aren't they? Those forward players. We'd like to see a few options in those areas. I'm particularly excited about Ramsey. I think we'll have a real player on our hands when he gets fit and ready. I don't think you begin to wonder whether we will ever see Mike Trésor and whether he'll just be spirited out the building on a loan in January to suit everyone. But
absolutely no mention of him in the press conference when Parker was discussing the injuries. We did sort of imagine that it's been a few weeks now since he said, he's back with the group and he's, we've seen photographs of him, but we haven't seen him in the flesh yet. Benny and Lyle back on the grass. I love that expression. No, I don't hate it. And then Parker reckons Foster's a few weeks away from being available again, and Ramsey a bit longer than that. So I'm sort of imagining we're not going to see either of those this side of Christmas. But we'll see. You never know. And obviously it's going to take them all a bit of time to get back into it. But Woody, in a weird way, this kind of thing, the injury situation, if these players do come back, it might help us in the second half of the season in an unusual way, because they won't have had as much game time. They might be a little bit fresher, and they might be available to give the lads who've got us this far, a little bit of a breather. That depth that the squad is going to develop is going to be much more useful in the second half of the season than it might have been now.
Oh, it's a frightening embarrassment of riches, isn't it? If you were to start the season over with everybody fit again, some of these names would definitely you would have thought would have been first names on the team sheet, and now it's going to be how do we integrate them? When do they come in? And it's such a nicer problem to have than worrying necessarily about losing somebody and not having backup. Yeah, we know we're a little bit light up front, but the idea of having the Ekdals of this world and the Worrells of this world ready to step up and step in, and Ekdal would offer something a little bit different at centre half. That more of a ball carrying centre half would be a different option come the second half of the season. But the idea of having Ramsey coming back into the side and just seeing how both him and Delcroix and even Ekdal and people who haven't played in this division, how they would, how quickly they would acclimatise to it, and how good they would look. And I think they'd look, pretty solid, if not slightly worrying to certain defences across the league. And so I think it'd be a good thing.
like in a weird way, the injuries have had some silver linings to them, haven't they? I mean, who would have thought Egan Riley would have stepped in and performed how he has for the first half of the season? It's just, no, he was like a forgotten man. We were all expecting him just to go out on loan again, but he's that partnership he's got with Esteve. I mean, Ekdal and Delcourt. They've got to get back in the side for a start. I can't, you wouldn't be looking to drop either of those two at the moment, would you?
No, it's one of the real stories of the season, isn't it, Egan Riley?
Yeah.
I remember I watched him at Shrewsbury summer of 22 when he'd just come into the club, and he looked nice, typical Manchester City product. He looked assured in possession, building from the back. He could play right back as well, and and then we never saw him. I don't know, whether he didn't have whether Vincent had signed him as one for the future, whether he didn't quite have his trust. He's had to go out on loan, and again, in a spell at Hibs, and you're wondering, well, I mean, is that one? Is he necessarily going to jump into the first team reckoning on the back of a loan at Hibs? Probably not. He ends up at PSV in their sort of younger setup there, and again, it's not looking like one where he's just going to come back into the reckoning. But that's again, like the jokes at the start. The squad's there for a reason, isn't it? And if someone is injured or sold or it's an opportunity, and he's grabbed it with both hands. And it's the players who come through certain clubs, and they've certain characteristics, and the character and mentality, and you can tell he's had a proper schooling at Manchester City, and now you're looking at a player there. He's worth infinitely more than he came in for, and you're wondering, like, well, it'd be interesting. Should Burnley be promoted, to see how he fares at that level, because he's got a lot in his locker, hasn't he?
Yeah. So interesting. It's going to be interesting few weeks to the end of January, really, because we've got these players coming back to bolster the squad. We can always switch things up in the transfer window, although we tend not to do that much business in January, do we? But the opportunity is there if we need to do it. So I think despite the fact that this squad's been thrown together quite rapidly, and that we are a little bit thin in certain areas on the pitch, it's so far so good, isn't it? I mean, Scott Parker's done a fantastic job, despite me moaning last week about not really enjoying watching it. To be where we are in the situation that we found ourselves, I think is it's no mean achievement, and I've got a sneaking suspicion that things are only going to get better. We'll return to that on Sunday after tonight's game and see what happens.
After 3-0 drubbing.
Yeah. Right, before we go, I just want to have one last thing. I spotted this story on the Burnley FC website. That we've got a new. Let me just read it to you. Calling all Clarets. Would you like to participate in our new halftime activation at Turf Moor to win prizes? Now, I don't really know what that means. I don't know what an activation is.
Activation.
But at the game tonight, they're going to start a new thing at halftime, where some fella has to kick a ball from the 6-yard box, and if they manage to land it on the centre spot on the halfway line, they can win a fantastic £500 cash prize. Chris, you're going to be having a go. It's an easy £500 for a man of your talent, surely.
I say you've got to be Xabi Alonso to do that. It's yeah. Good luck. It's a nice little idea. I think I've seen it. I think I've seen it in the States and things like that. But I do like if you're going to have a bit of half-time entertainment rather than that. What was that? Drop it like it's hot.
Drop it like it's hot.
Shambles that we had to witness. If you're going to have half-time entertainment, at least bring it into the realm of football. Let's have it a crossbar challenge, or the old school the pie and peas game, which was absolutely sensational. To have a purpose-built Holland's pie and play with the green mitre deltas. It was just sensational. Never be topped. That.
So this is just another in the long line of efforts to make half-time a little bit more interesting for those people who don't just go down the concourse and get a pint, But obviously, in that expression, our brand new half-time activation. They don't mean activation, do they, Woody? I mean,
I can imagine that internally, various PR media types and marketing spiel, they may have been calling it some form of growth activation. And that might be the buzzword internally. And some goon hasn't been smart enough to kind of retranslate that to a half-time kickabout. But can you imagine? I mean, if it's like blowing an absolute gale, you deserve a five. just in play, never mind it in the centre circle. You know what I mean?
It's like quite a long way, isn't it? It's quite a long way.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm sure I saw a couple of weeks ago. They did. I'm sure they did one over here where they had a little bowl-shaped hole in the net. They put up like this big boarding to cover up the goals, and you had to basically get it through a bowl-shaped hole for $1 million. And some bugger managed it. I think it was the only one all season who managed it. But I can't imagine that happening anytime soon on the turf. Neither $1 million or putting placards up against the goals. So let's see what happens tomorrow night.
I think it's just a mistake. I think somebody's made an error there, and that's been up on the website for a couple of days. So I think it's one of them things. I've noticed a lot of weird little mistakes. There was one last week, wasn't it, where they put the wrong team up on Twitter as the opposition. Just a little peek behind the curtain. I think that. Yeah, that things might not be going as well as you think.
Yeah, from the newspaper game though, if they've got templates and stuff, and sometimes the template doesn't get amended, and I'm always willing to give the benefit of the doubt in those respects. Cause it's not like I haven't done it before in my previous guys. So.
We all make mistakes, but yeah, you'd expect them to correct something if it is a mistake, though.
Well, so yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Guess what they call in this thing? This half-time activation? Spot on.
Oh. Spot on. On the spot.
It's got a nice ring to it, that, and it's better than drop it like it's hot.
It beats having them dogs walking around the perimeter of the pitch in posh coats or whatever. Can you remember that? They used to have like fancy dogs walking around.
What, like a little dog show?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember
that. You must remember that.
That sounds mad.
Absolutely appalling.
Sounds mad, but no madder than spot on.
No madder than what were that Z-lister that they had singing? What were it called? No, one of these pop factor thingamajigs. I don't know.
That's you talking about a world that I know don't understand and know nothing about.
I purposely stayed away from the turf for that one.
Right, I think that's enough of this nonsense, isn't it? I mean, we could talk about this all night. Half-time entertainment. Hopefully, this will be an improvement on what we've had so far. Sadly, I'll be missing it. But if you are going on the turf tonight and you do get an opportunity to play spot on, I wish you the very best of luck.
I want to try.
I hope everybody who makes it to Turf Moor tonight has a great night, and I hope the weather improves a little bit because it's been absolutely awful today. And obviously enjoy the game too if you're going to be watching it on TV. We'll be back on Monday with our reaction to whatever happens tonight at the turf. So until then, have a great weekend and up the Clarets.